Hey friends, this is Silly Squirrel, and welcome to a third episode of Revive Me Bro Gaming, a new co-op gaming podcast bringing you the latest in game, tech, and everything co-op and multiplayer. I'm joined by one of my best friends and support role, Master Rein.
What's up, everybody?
And we're here to review the first game in our hopefully a long list of games we'll review, The Forest.
Oh yeah, The Forest. Dun dun dun.
And joining us to review The Forest is the one, the only, Luis.
Luis!
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Luis, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. I'm excited about this.
Dude, I'm excited to have you here, bro.
Yeah, same here, man. You're our first guest ever.
Yes.
And it's perfect because we experienced The Forest with you from like the beginning, and we got a lot to say about it for sure.
Yeah, we share the same traumas. Trauma brothers.
Trauma brothers.
and I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what I was going to go into next. So Luis here, he's been friends with Master Rein and I since high school days. And we've stayed in contact by basically playing video games and going to each other's bachelor parties and stuff.
Yep.
So if there's one thing Luis is really good at is at building strategic anything.
The man's a base architect.
Basically, if
Yeah.
you play Rust, he will spend his days at work trying to figure out to build the best base so that later he can build it in Rust.
It's an addiction.
And so...
And we support that addiction.
fully. So much so that when we bought the game The Forest and Ray and I were getting our asses kicked by the enemy, we won't spoil anything yet, we realized we need a builder. And hence we called forth the powers of Luis.
We summoned Luis from the depths to build the bases that we needed.
We bought him the gay and say, fuck you, play with us.
We need you. Help us, Luis. We need you.
And the moment Luis joined us in this game, it changed everything for us.
Yeah. And I guess you'll go into it later on, but there is something to say about having the right, specializing each person in your team.
Oh,
to
yeah.
kinda make the most out of the game.
Absolutely.
Luis, how about you give us a little bit of an intro for all our listeners? Tell us a little bit about some of your favorite games, real quick, and what are you playing right now?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the first game I can remember, which is MS-DOS games.
Whoa,
Like
nice.
Scorched Earth on the PC. So I just want to say, since the beginning, I've been PC Master Race.
Yeah, son.
From day one, man. Really, it was strategy games that I got super into, Age of Empires,
Nice.
Empire Earth,
Nice.
and all those games. And then I liked, because those had map editors, so I started making my own maps and trying to create my own scenarios and all that.
Mhm.
And I started kind of being obsessed about not just building things, but also kind of what makes things fun or interesting,
Nice.
So
I see.
I've been playing Faster Than Light recently.
Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
Great
Then-
strategy
yeah.
game. Great strategy game. I love
Yeah,
Into the
yeah.
Breach from the same creators.
Oh, haven't tried that one yet, but they're addicting and they're
Yep.
just so well done.
Yep.
And then I've been playing City Skylines and Age of Empires 2, making maps so we could play them together. So,
Very
so I'm still
cool.
playing that.
So as you can see, this is why we needed Luis.
Yes, he's designing. He's a designer.
He's basically a designer, and we needed someone to complement Ray's and I's thirst for blood.
Yeah. Let's put it like that. That's accurate.
Before we begin our review, PSA for the podcast.
Everybody, we are available in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. You can also find us on Instagram at Revive Me Bro Games and on Twitter at Revive Me Bro. And everybody, remember to subscribe and please leave us a comment and hit us up on any of those social networks. We would love to hear from y'all, and your support means the world to us.
The more feedback you can give us, the more we can cater this podcast to what
Your
you guys
likings,
like to hear.
what you guys want,
Exactly.
yeah.
Let's get started with the review. First off, I'm going to read basically what Wikipedia describes what is The Forest. So, The Forest. The Forest is a survival video game developed and published by Endnight Games. The game takes place on a remote, heavily forested peninsula where the player character, Eric LeBlanc, wait, that's his name. Huh?
That's his name. Yeah, we find it out very, very late onto the game.
Yeah.
Changes everything.
Changes
Oh
everything.
my, the guy's Canadian. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Damn
Exactly, everybody.
Dude, I
You
was
just
gonna
heard us
say-
find out his name is Eric LeBlanc.
So the player character Eric LeBlanc and his son Timmy are survivors of a plane crash. The game features non-linear gameplay in an open world environment played from a first-person perspective, with no set missions or quests, empowering the player to make their own decisions for survival. So,
Exactly.
long story short, your main mission is to find your son Timmy. And the game literally gives you carte blanche on how to do it. You
Yeah.
can beat the
Yeah.
game in less than an hour if you
Yeah.
want to.
And obviously the first thing you got to do is try to survive and try to like stay alive, but
Mhm.
yeah, like if you try to rush through the game, you probably could rush through it really quickly if you know exactly where everything is. But the purpose of the game is it's just throwing you to this environment. It's not telling you squat, and it's telling you survive.
Basically, yeah. Survive.
Survive.
You know, and you know what's fantastic though is that I mean, since we all three of us played at least 50 hours. Yeah,
Mhm,
50
mhm,
hours.
Yes.
Like when this game, like I said, you can beat it in an hour. So if anything, that should tell you how much stuff you can do in this game.
Oh,
not
yeah.
not
Yeah,
even get
yeah.
close to touching the story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not the game to meta game on your first playthrough.
No, not at all.
It'll ruin everything.
Right.
Because part of it is just being ignorant about what's going on.
Exactly.
And like the mystery behind everything.
So this is one of those games where you do not want to learn anything about the game. The story is probably as much as you want to know, and what we're going to talk about here, the graphics and mechanics. You know, some of these things are like, you know, even some of the things we might talk about here are going to be kind of spoilerish. But when we entered the game, we knew nothing other than the fact that we had to craft our tools, we had to try to survive, and that we had to find our son.
And the most important thing too is that there are moments where all of a sudden you feel like you're being watched.
You
And
can
that is
feel,
when
yeah, you can feel the
you can
air on the back of your neck.
feel- Yeah, and we'll talk about that more later on, but there's something special when you first start this game and an immediate dread just drops on you. Especially if you're playing by yourself. It's
So let's
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
inescapable.
Yeah, exactly. It's inescapable. So let's talk
So-
about real quick how the game just drops you in from the start. So you're in a plane, you're eating your food, and the plane, there's turbulence, and all of a sudden the turbulence gets really bad and it goes down. And you wake up in like a daze, and you see a red body take your son, and it goes away. And then you wake up hours later.
Yeah, that's basically it. So like we said, the main mystery is like, where did this red painted person took your son Timmy? And that's where you start the game. Thoughts on the story overall, guys, without spoiling anything.
I really loved how the game told the story through the environment. I thought that
Mhm.
was really cool. You're looking around, you're obviously like in this forest, and there's these things happening everywhere, and you come across certain landmarks, and you're just like everything just is there's the mystery behind it. There's locked doors, and
Mhm.
I just love how this game tells its story through its environment.
No, yeah, I agree. It's like the more once you have like an established base or at least a little bit of a camp, going out and exploring the island really does. It's like that the Dark Souls type of storytelling where it's like nothing is really told to you. You have to put the pieces together.
Yeah,
And the game does a really
Mm.
good job of letting you know that something that you find is part of the story.
right,
Like you know how there's usually like if you pick up a picture or something, like music tends to play.
right,
So you know that, oh, this is important. This is part of your story.
right.
And so if you ever wanted to go back to those clues, you open up your notebook, which is basically where the game has all of your mission objectives, the things that you can build, and like I said, your clues. You can start forming a little bit of what's going on in this forest.
I really liked the mystery because you really don't know what the hell is going on. Like,
Yeah, for the longest
like
time.
not even close for a while.
Mm-hmm.
A while. And I also like that if you're not proactive, like the story doesn't progress. The story progresses as fast as you make it a priority to progress.
Right. Right.
And when you're also dealing with like what is actually going on and trying to survive and just survive, it's like, man, like I just need food or need water or need to like get some shelter
Or
I
some
can't go
medicine.
get, you know. So it there's all these things pulling you away from finding Timmy, but you have to find Timmy, and, and so it makes you really want to like, it makes you feel bad about like, no, we gotta find Timmy. And then if you've been playing for a while, it's like, guys, we need to find fucking Timmy.
Yeah, like, we're gonna find just like a cadaver. Like, come on.
Yeah, we need to get on this.
Like Master Rein and I, when we started, we really focused on like trying to get much of the story as possible. But it's like once Luis came into the picture, we were focusing solely on base building. And for people that don't know, the forest, the main enemies in the forest are basically these cannibalistic tribes.
Beings.
And tribes, I mean plural.
We don't know much about them at all in the beginning, just that they're there, they're bloody, they have weapons, and they don't seem that like they don't like you.
Yes, and the thing is, like, one of the selling points of this game is the AI. And let me tell you, I have never played a game where the AI is just surveying you and being like, should I attack you or not? And you're like, let's go, bro, let's roll. And he just looks at you and runs away. There's a spine chilling effect of just seeing that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many AIs learn how you play, but this game learns how you play, and it starts to use that against you.
Oh, yeah. In so many different ways. And so, like, yes, we have to find Timmy. Yes, we have to build a base.
Right.
But you got to deal with all these cannibals. And not just like a tribe of cannibals. There's different tribes of cannibals, and all of them play differently and assess differently and attack differently and have different patterns. And all these okay, that's me trying to say a big word.
Idiosyncratic elements.
No? Why, thank you, Luis.
That's a big ass word. Damn.
I concur with your observation, and henceforth we'll leave those big words to you.
Moreover.
But anyway, yes, you have to fight all these cannibals, and so like, yes, you're building a base, but you have to really think how you're gonna build a base.
Right.
You're going to build on a tree. Are you going to build on the ground? Are you going to make a huge wall around you? Are you going to build close to the beach? Like it makes a difference.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah,
it really
based
does.
on where the tribes walk and like where they go,
right,
and all that, you have to be. Well, you might build like where a tribe likes to like a route, and then you're screwed. You're just screwed.
Oh,
and then like the more noise you make, that's a big element. The more noise you make, which you make a lot of noise when you're building a base and cutting down trees and all that. You just, like when a tree falls, it echoes across the entire forest.
Right, like
you're like, shit. They definitely heard that.
Right.
And then so you're trying to build a base and it's like, ugh, you know.
And then we discovered dynamite. And it's
in its ability to chop trees and call hordes.
Yeah.
The game really does do a good job of also like giving you little hints and pieces of how these tribes came to be. Because at first you're like, what are these tribes doing here? You know, they're like fully grown
people, naked people. Yeah.
You know, and clearly they have like ability to communicate with each other. They're sentient. Right. You know, and so it's like,
and they don't have genitals. And I'm sorry to say this, everybody. Like, you know, we did see and notice that they don't have genitals because these are men and women who are completely butt ass naked.
Now, we don't know if that's part of the story or game design, but I guess you can figure that out later when we get to the spoiler section of the podcast.
Exactly.
But anyway, so yeah, like I think the story overall like does a really good job of like allowing the player to either go all in on it or to take your time with it. And honestly, I think the way we played it was the best because we really did take our time. We explored as much as we could. And then once we got I think 45 hours, we decided to go ham on the story.
But by then we were strong. We had built a lot. We knew a lot about the mechanics. We were better at aiming with various weapons. And so by then it was like, let's do it. Let's
find Timmy.
Yeah. Let's find our son.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, like the discoveries, the moment, there's moments in the game where you like discover more about what's going on in the island that are absolutely awesome.
There's definitely an element of like, oh, I figured everything out, and then boom, like you acquire a certain item, or you find a certain cave, or you learn something about the crafting that you didn't know, or you get a story element, and then suddenly the island becomes bigger. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it's always like putting you back into the mystery, because like first you every time you think there's no more mystery, it just like
There's another mystery.
it's like no, there's more.
Yeah.
It's like whoa.
Even at the very end.
Yeah.
Even at the very end. There's
Mm-hmm.
just yeah.
When you think you have everything down, then you get to the last part, you're like, oh, there's. It keeps upping the stakes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Tiger King of video games. You know? It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What? And you think you can't get more, but it keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that.
So
about this
those
game.
creators, those developers, they nailed it. They nailed it with the story design, with the mechanics on the forest, on the AI, even the animals. The animals, I mean, sometimes like the deers come right up to you, but still, like I loved how everything worked in this game.
Let's move on and let's talk a little bit about the graphics. You mentioned like the environments, you mentioned the deer and stuff like that. So I'll say first off, the game is beautiful.
The game
It's
is
not-
absolutely beautiful.
It's not COD beautiful.
It's beautiful in its own right.
Yeah, like you get like it does a good job. It's good enough that you can easily get yourself immersed. Like
Yeah.
yes, it won't look as good as like your Crisis game or even like anything like a Ghost of Tsushima or any game like that. But the game actually, to be honest, like the game looks like something that came out like what 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. It really does. But you know what though? The environment, I would say that it's equally as immersive as the Ghost of Tsushima environment, in my opinion. Because you get into that forest and it sounds like everything is moving. And then you start hearing the cannibals and you start
boy.
seeing them in the distance and they're watching you and the sun sets, and then when the sun sets, like fuck.
Oh, man.
When the sun goes
Yeah.
down and the lights are gone and all you have is a little lighter and a torch to light the way, like that game really does shine in the darkness, because that darkness is black. It is pitch
Like-
black.
I have never played a game besides probably Rust where nighttime comes down and you feel like you can't do jack shit. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I can't see anything.
Yep.
and to be
It just
and to be honest,
makes you so paranoid.
yes, and to be honest, like that it adds to the experience, because yes, it can be annoying at first. Like, why is it so dark? But then like the more you play it, the more you realize like no, like it really adds to the whole gameplay, because it's
whole
like,
tension.
You can't really see the you don't know if the cannibals are out there, and it's so dark you really don't you get scared. You legitimately get scared even with
Yeah.
the torch. It's like, do I really want to go out there?
Right.
Because like the cannibals, here's the thing, like we said, like the cannibals are very smart, and so you really don't know what the enemy AI is going to do next, because
Yeah.
they're so unpredictable. And
Right.
it's not the unpredictability of like there's this randomness to it, like when I think of unpredictability, like a GTA or a
It's-
Red Dead, where you find things and it's like,
Right.
oh, it's so no, this is like the enemy AI can literally do whatever the heck it wants. And
Right.
they will surprise you.
And they know, and the enemy AI will know when you let your guard down. Because let's say you're chopping a tree down and you need some wood at the middle of the night for whatever reason, you're trying to finish something off, and you got your back turned to the forest and you're just chopping real quick. All of a sudden, you'll just hear like right behind you. And it's
Yep.
just like,
Oh,
run!
man.
That's it! Stop the tree cutting! Go! 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 Go!
Run!
No, and you know how many times we would do that too, where it's like Master Rein might be like chopping a piece of wood and I walk right past him and he freaks out.
yeah. It's like, oh shit, somebody's behind me. It's like, oh,
Like-
it's silly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned this, because it's like sound design. The developers
Huge.
did an amazing job with sound design. We haven't even talked about the caves, right? Yes, there's
No, not
caves,
yet.
but-
Exactly. Yeah.
But like when you're outside, you hear the wind, blowing. You hear the trees rustling. You
You hear the
animals
weather.
walking.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
imagine you're playing by yourself and you're hunting deer.
Oh man.
And
You're
you're hearing
hunting deer.
when you're hearing the wind rustling the bushes behind you. You don't know if it's the wind or if it's the cannibal, if it's the deer.
Yes, dude, it's amazing.
Like getting the water has a good sound. Like getting your bow out has a good sound. Like even chopping or getting in fights with the enemy.
Or
has
just
a
the
good sound.
footsteps, man. I remember like, cause the way deer animal like
Mhm.
they walk or run is different from how daywalker run because their steps are heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And so that even it got to the point where subconsciously I was starting to tell the difference between the different types of footsteps. Like that's how paranoid this game makes me.
Yeah, yeah. Because like any advantage you can get against these enemies, like you need it. And then like after you finish exploring up top, or you find your first cave and you start going underground, everything changes with the sound. Obviously the looks, you're underground, it's a lot darker, but the sound in those caves, bro.
Oh man, the
The echoes, yes. It's
The
like
echoes, the water dropping.
Because you in the cave, you don't know where it's coming from because it's echoing everywhere. So you're just like looking around, like, oh my god, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, are they close? Are they far away?
Yeah.
Are they behind us, in front? We don't like. You don't know.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Or you might be sneaking and you come around the corner and they're like right there, like eating their dinner, and you're just like, oh crap, run! And they see you and start chasing you.
The enemy AI is also very they're very attracted to light.
Yes.
So when the
They're
moment
curious.
you start, oh yeah, the moment you start building like a bonfire or even like a small fireplace, like they'll, if it's near their route for the most part, they'll. Here's the thing. This is what I'm trying to say. You can build a small fire, and you can see it from across the map. Like if Master Rein was building like a little campfire, like the game does such a good job that at the distance you see a small light. So if we can see it, the AI can see it. And so it's this really like push and pull between like what do we need at the moment,
And what we're willing to do too, you know?
and you know, like the first couple of hours that Master Rain and I played, like we didn't know this. The game doesn't tell you these mechanics. We started building a big ass base, and we had fires all over the place and all that, and that was like the worst thing you could have done.
Right. We were like, look at our beautiful base. We lit it up and we have all this stuff, and yeah, we we just chopped this forest down, and then like the night came and we were like, oh crap.
We spent, I think, our first 5 hours of gameplay fighting and fighting and like we couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
And we didn't understand why.
And we kept dying. We kept dying and coming back to the plane because that's where you restart.
Yeah, you don't. It's not a permadeath. Like basically, you respawn and everything's gonna be back there, which is very nice.
But you do lose some statistics. You do lose some stats.
It's very punishing though, in other ways, and I think that's a big aspect of the game. Like it's just it's not nice to you when you die, you know.
Yeah.
Because you lose all your stats. Like it's like you can build up athleticism or get stronger and all that stuff. You lose all that. And your stuff is like way over where you died, which probably still has cannibals. And if you die again, like you lose that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's you don't want to die. I think it has to be that way because otherwise it'd
be too
like
easy.
a spawn fence.
Yeah.
And it reminds you of like every time you try, you're like, man, I got this, and you die. It just reminds you how weak sauce you are, and then like nah, man, like this place is out to get you.
Yeah, if you lose respect for the forest, it'll get you.
Yep, and you know what? And that's honestly one of the things I love about the game is that there's all these mechanics, you know, that are hidden from you. That the more you play it and the more you figure it out, it rewards you for it. You know, just like the story, you know, the more you explore and you find a story, it rewards you for it. And the game really does have a good balance between, you know, figuring out how something works and figuring out a little bit of the story and using that to your advantage. I will say, though, it's not perfect, and we will talk about this in a little bit, but sometimes certain mechanics are mind-boggling. Like, I do not understand why the game doesn't tell you, for example, that you can use a rabbit trap as a fish trap.
That's a big thing that we didn't take advantage of.
Because we found this out so late.
Yeah.
The game really doesn't tell you a lot of things, and sometimes like some of the stuff that you can do in the game, you basically have to figure it out. Like doors, for example, or gates. Like the game doesn't tell you can build gates. It has walls.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But then it's like you have to build it a certain way it'll give you the option to build a gate. Same for like windows or or the way you put the chairs, or
Right.
you know, all that stuff. And
Yeah. Stacking walls, all that.
exactly, and it would get really frustrating because it's like, oh my god, like after hours and hours of trying to defend your base, you find out that you can have like a gate, for example. It's like,
Right.
what the fuck? Like this would have been really useful
Right.
20 hours ago, you know?
Now, a
Like,
note. I want to take a quick note on this about like the base building and like mechanics that are hidden like this. Like, for example, this game is very similar to Minecraft. Everything we've talked about, right? Like, but Minecraft has no story. If you get on the Minecraft wiki to look stuff up, nothing's gonna be spoiled to you. Everything is just, you're just gonna learn stuff, right? But if you get on the Forest's wiki, don't do it. Like, so much is gonna be spoiled to you about like the story in the game, and like that's not the developer's fault. But I mean, it kind of is. It's kind of not. It's kind of like a gaming community thing, where the gaming community is gonna create wikis to tell you what the secret mechanics are. But if you go and look for them, you're probably gonna see all the spoilers that are gonna potentially ruin the game.
Well,
Yeah.
well, and
The
go ahead. Sorry.
the crafting, so the way the crafting works is you have this tarp that the guy opens up every time you want to craft stuff, and everything you've picked up is in this tarp, and then you can combine things in the tarp. By the way, when you craft, since the tarp is like on the ground, like the cannibals are still around, so even there's an element of paranoia where you're like, okay, let me see what I
gotta
can
be
build
quick.
or craft, and
It's very
whatever,
similar
right?
to Dead Space, where there was no like pause button, really.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. But it rewards common sense, like, oh, let me see if I can combine a stick and a stone, and then you make like a stone spear or whatever, stuff like that. So it rewards those kind of like survival intuitions. But then sometimes there's stuff that you're like, the fuck, like how does this make sense, or like, how was I supposed to like know this?
Right. Right.
Like what exactly? Like what comes to mind?
One thing that comes to mind for me was the rope. Now, without
Oh,
getting too crazy in the
yeah.
in the crafting stuff, I'll just say it right now. Anybody want to skip it? Go ahead and skip like 10 seconds. But you can create the ropes by combining 7 pieces of cloth together. The game does not tell you that. Somebody randomly found that. I think it was you, Luis, who randomly
Yeah,
found that, and you're
yeah.
like, bro, it just changes the game for everybody, because we were going to villages, and we were going to tribes, and we were going to like places to find
Mm-hmm.
ropes, and we came to a point where we couldn't even build anymore because we needed rope at the point. But then Luis figured
Mhm.
out, oh, you can just combine seven pieces of cloth and you can make a rope. That's such a small thing, right? Like 7 pieces of cloth, rope, boom, now you have more rope, right? But I think we didn't figure that out until like 20 hours into the game.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it was phenomenal. The moment we found that out, it was like, oh my god, we can do this. Like it was great, you know. But it goes back to like the game having to, like, it's again, it's a balance, right? Like we make discoveries and we feel great, but then the game also, it doesn't tell you enough, so it can get frustrating. So it was a constant back and forth between like discovery and frustration. And there's even deeper and deeper like combinations where it's like even like the upgrade system, for example, where you can like use the teeth that you collect from the cannibals that you kill, and you can like glue it with sap. You glue it with sap to your weapons, and that will increase their speed
Or
and
strength.
damage.
Right. Now that mechanic, I appreciate, for example, in my opinion, I appreciate that you have to discover how to build your weapon with the environment. I thought that was pretty cool. But that, in my opinion, is a little bit different than the mechanic of creating the rope, right? Like such a simple one. Like we figured out how to do all the stuff with the weapons well before we figured out the rope part, you know? And when the rope part happened, I felt like that was a bigger deal to us because it was such a necessary thing for building.
Yeah, that's a great point, because since it's not this linear story where you kind of go step one of part one of the story, part two. It's open world, and you kind of find the story in your
Mhm.
own way, which is cool. It's hard for the game to kind of like give you the victories in the right order. So like something as basic as rope, you feel that sense of like, oh, discovered how to make rope should be at the beginning of the game, not towards the end. And versus like more complex stuff that maybe you figure out, but like you have not that much use for it because you don't have all the materials or whatever, may come like right at the beginning. So it's like unpredictable, and I guess it has to be, but it's also like a negative sometimes.
Well, and like one thing that I actually go into like a more positive note. It's like food is a hard resource to really gather. Like hunting can be a pain in the butt. Like granted, you'll have enough birds landing on you randomly to keep you fed for a while, but birds can only feed you a certain amount of health. Um, the game allows you to farm animals. It allows you to pick berries. It allows you to garden the berries so that you always have a constant flow of food. Fishing is an option, and eating eating meats that are human. Eating human meat is also an option, and we'll get to what that does to you later. But the thing is, the berries, for example, you don't when you go and pick up the berries, like you can't eat all the berries, which is if you're an explorer, it's common sense. You can't eat all the berries that you see out there. But here's another thing: if you have if you have a pouch, you can pick the berries, put them in the pouch, and then you can eat them later. We found that out like 40 hours in.
Yeah, it was kind of late when we found that out, and it
So
helped so much.
it really did, because when you would go to the caves, there's not any food in the caves really, unless you find like the granola bars, right? But we would carry out like we would all carry like a piece of meat or something so we can cook it later, but that would spoil, you know.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we would just have to eat, even though we were like full hell, we would have to eat whatever we had because it would just spoil, you know. Later on, when we found out you can pick up berries, well, that problem went away, because the berries don't spoil, and you can pick as much berries as you want. So yeah.
Then we discovered what to do with the food to make it last longer, and then that changed the food.
Oh my God, yes. And to be honest, like those are some of the little things I really appreciate in terms of mechanics, especially the crafting. But let's go into the two things that will probably do the most in the forest: the building the base and combat.
Yes.
So, Luis, tell us a little bit about building bases.
Well, okay, so the first thing is that building a base attracts attention, which I like that tension of like you have this ambitious of like, I'm gonna build this base, it's gonna be impenetrable, it's gonna be, nothing's gonna bring it down. But like as you're building it and stuff, the AI is smart, and they hear the sounds of the trees going down, or sometimes they'll send scouts.
Yep.
And then the scout will go back, and then they'll bring more of their tribe members to fuck with you, or stronger tribe members that can like really like just give you a run for your money. So there's always that tension of how much base do you want for the amount of trouble you're gonna go through, like keeping it or building it, and that was a big change for me. That was like, oh shit, okay, we gotta build a base like smart, but then you can get really creative and you have a lot of options, and they all look like rustic survival type options. But you can have traps; those are probably really cool. You can build traps. You can build all sorts of different types of shelters. You can build in the trees, like tree houses and whatnot. And that was pretty cool because that's like a whole nother way. And you can even build on water like rafts that you can kind of like put stuff in the raft and kind of make a home that's floating in the water.
You can make zip lines, which that was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was I loved it.
You're definitely not that limited when it comes to building.
Yeah, there's a sandbox mode, which I recommend not spending too much time in it. Like play the game as a virgin first and then do the other stuff. But in the sandbox mode, you can go crazy with this and build some like really cool things. Like it really has that scope. Like some guy built like a roller coaster. So that would never happen in the regular game, but in the sandbox mode where it's just kind of creative mode, you could. So you feel like you're building a castle, like a medieval like defense system. You have to plan for all the things that could happen.
Because sometimes this is like he would build like, if we can make like a little road, and we can like put rocks around next to the road. That way we know where the road goes. And I'm like, but cannibals.
It's like I can connect the two bases, so it's gonna be easier to go between bases and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I left to go for a camping trip for a little while. When I came back, like the little base that we had on top of this one hill was an actual castle.
And that's Ray. That's a good point. That you can build more than one base, and as you're exploring and trying to get to different parts of the map that have these different topographical features and weathers and all that, you have to build bases like as outposts, because if you stray too far from your base has all like, it has your food, it has like your skins for like making armor or all that stuff. So if you stray too far from your base, you're taking a bigger and bigger risk. So you have to build like outposts and stuff. So you sort of like colonize the island a little bit as you go, and then the more bases you build, the tribes are like, no, man, this ain't cool.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
It reminds me of that one base we built by this one big landmark where, man, the tribes humbled us. We thought we were like good shit. Man,
good word choice.
My God, yeah.
We got cocky. We built one right in the middle of like this route that they like to take, and it was like we were just like, nah, we got the. Again, it's like that feeling the game gives you of like, we mastered it, and then he's like, nope. Yeah. There's more.
Because we came across this area.
We built a giant bonfire, remember?
Yeah, we did. Bonfire. We were like celebrating too. We were like, look at us. We made it here. Yeah.
Like, come at us, bro.
Yeah, we were literally Tom Hanks in Castaway. I am the Lord of Fire.
Oh, we were. We were like dancing around, and then all of a sudden, you start hearing them coming. The first one comes, and then it's the first wave, and it's the second wave, and then it's the freaking fifth wave, and you're like, help! Here's
the thing about combat. Combat is very simple, but it's brutal. And when I mean brutal, I mean bloody, gory, intense, adrenaline pumping, and by God, the game throws wrenches at you.
The game is unforgiving, and you have to be unforgiving back.
Yep. But guess what?
Yeah.
A mechanic that we didn't mention is that if you're too unforgiving, your sanity goes down.
Yes.
You know, and yes, there is a sanity mechanic in this game. Things like not sleeping. Oh yeah, there's also, you have to sleep.
You gotta sleep.
Yeah. You know, don't eat human meat.
Eating human meat, chopping dead bodies. Every time you kill the cannibal, their body just lays there. So you can either chop their heads, feet, arms. You can burn their bodies to get bones, and you can create bone armor. You know.
So let's talk a little bit about, I don't know if you guys knew this, but what happens when your sanity drops too low, which is actually like a point of contention because people aren't sure. So like one thing you can do is build an effigy when you're like really insane, and that kind of, it's like a statue with like human parts and cannibal parts. It's a disgusting thing.
It's completely customizable too.
And you set it on fire.
You can build it however you want.
Yeah, and it scares away cannibals. And then there's an argument that it also changes it gives the player auditory hallucinations, but like I don't even know if that's a thing. If it's actually real or not, but I wouldn't be surprised, just like what we've been mentioning, that there's always like layers of things.
So you're actually right, Luis. So the sound design is incredible in this game, and auditory hallucinations are actually part of it. So as your insanity goes down, you start hearing things, you start hearing voices, you start hearing stuff behind you. So like you imagine like your sanity is at like 20% and you're in the forest chopping the trees down, and you're completely by yourself, but you keep hearing behind you, right? And you keep turning around. Like that's just taking you away from your objective of mining, right? But like there's nothing around you. You're just freaking out. Like your character is actually insane.
You see, I didn't know that. I always felt like the sanity mechanic was a little too shallow, but I guess it's too subtle.
And it's possible, I don't know about this part, but it's possible you start seeing things as well. So it's possible you might see like a cannibal walk past a tree and then it disappears. I don't know about that. I haven't experimented that, but I would assume that would be part of the mechanic. Now, from based off things that I've seen online, now that would be a fun thing to experiment with and go back and do like a second playthrough as like the insane people only eating bodies and stuff like that. That would be
Oh,
crazy,
man.
you know.
Whoa.
But dude,
It
that
makes
would
me
just
want to go back.
I know, right? But that would be crazy. Imagine like you're mining through the forest and then you see a cannibal like past a tree, and then you're like, crap, I'm gonna go attack it, and then it disappears. And I was like, crap, there was nothing there.
Wow,
Dude.
Wow. See, guys, this is what I mean. I want to go back and play it.
It's so good, man.
So like,
Yeah,
so sorry, Lisa, for interrupting you. So
no worries,
like,
no worries.
You know, but the thing is with the combat though, it's like, you know, like there's all these different things that you can do in combat that will lower your sanity, but there's all these other things that, you know, is just combat. So what can you do? You can you use a lot of blunt weapons.
Yeah, you have
You know,
hammers and axes and stuff like that you can use. You also
you
go ahead.
spoiler alert, you can find a samurai sword.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, you can find a samurai sword. You can also find a beautiful machete. Beautiful machete.
Oh my, that machete is
you-
baller.
You can craft
Put
yourself
some teeth on it, even better.
better.
Yeah.
You can craft yourself a bow. You can craft yourself a spear. You can craft yourself a burning spear, a poison spear. Same with the arrows. You can craft yourself some bow and arrows. So you're not
Some
limited to
fire
what.
arrows, bomb arrows, like it's
Right.
it's
And there's more
deep.
weapons too that we haven't mentioned that you can find and you can craft. So it is deep. And then the mechanics of the weapons themselves, like if you the first time you're gonna pick up a bow, you are not going to hit the target, right? Like in real life, you're not. So the first time you pick up a bow and you shoot in the game, it's just like the arrow just goes blue, goes straight down. You're like, what the heck? Like this bow sucks. It's not that it sucks. It's that you have to learn how to shoot it. You have to aim
That
high.
you suck.
You suck. Yeah.
You need to get
gotta,
good.
gotta get good. You gotta like, make sure you're aiming higher and all that kind of stuff. The same thing with the spear. You can't just throw the spear and expect it to go in a straight line up until it hits. It's gonna drop because of gravity. So you gotta make sure you're aiming higher. You gotta make sure you're aiming ahead of a creature or enemy that may be running, right? And then there's the mechanic of blocking as well. Because if you're getting surrounded, you can't just spam attack, you know, and you got to make sure that you're blocking as well, and you got to make sure that if you're going to be blocking, if you're going to be alone, because that's the other thing about the enemy AI during combat is that they're not gonna always rush you, right? They're gonna be careful with you. They're gonna try to draw you out from your location, right? And then they may send one person to kind of mess with you, right? And then that cannibal runs back, and then two cannibals run up, and you're like, all right, it's time to fight, right? You may kill one of them, the other one runs away. If you do that, like more likely not, you're gonna see like a mob of cannibals come up, and then they're gonna slowly walk up to you until they start rushing you, right? And at that point, it's like, crap, what do I do now? If you're by yourself, especially, like, are you gonna fight? Are you gonna retreat? Are you gonna defend? Like, what are you gonna do, right? And that's completely up to the player and your position.
Yeah. And you don't start off that way. Like with your first fights and everything, you're gonna be really, really scared, and then as you get better, you'll be kind of taking on bigger and bigger fights, which is, cool.
The game has this thing where it's like the moment you start getting comfortable, the game will up the ante. And there were many
yeah.
times where it's like if we were like totally in control of one tribe, another tribe would start showing up, and they'd be a little different. And then all of a sudden, the enemy they have these weapons. Like if we started throwing a lot of Molotov cocktails, they would learn how to use Molotov cocktails and throw it right back at them.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, exactly.
They're savage, dude. Oh, and really, really important, you can get knocked down, and whether through damage or getting hit by certain things. And when you do get knocked down, like, I mean, you can revive your buddies.
Revive
Like,
me,
have,
bro!
yeah. So it wouldn't be a co-op game without a revival mechanic.
Exactly, yeah.
And just kind of coming back for like, come back for me, bro. It's just like, no, fuck no, man. Like they're killing us all.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like we played with another player named Jonathan. What's up, Jonathan?
What up? What up?
And
Whoop,
like
whoop.
sometimes like, we would divide in groups of two. And if like Luis died and I was there, Jonathan and Master Rein were a little farther away, like they would sometimes not be able to make it. Like, dude, I can't make it. We're having a whole fight over here. So I had to figure out what to do. you know.
And you were alone
was
at
alone.
that point,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
that's the moment you realize every time you're alone, but for whatever reason, which the game creates many, you're like, holy, you feel it again. You're like, damn, I need to get to
That
people.
heavy
If
tension.
anyone plays this with friends, I highly, highly recommend that whatever new friends joins your game, tell them to turn off the Discord, to only communicate through in-game walkie-talkies, and
Yep.
to try to make it to your location by crouching. Because here's the thing, the game has a stealth mode.
Yes,
You know.
that's true. I forgot about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The game has a stealth mode and it's stealth armor. Again, stuff that we found out way later, that you can literally hide yourself from the cannibals and they won't see you. But if you use a walkie-talkie, they hear the static of the walkie-talkie and the voices coming out of it, and they go investigate that shit.
Yep.
Now imagine you doing exactly what we told you what to do, to meet us like kilometers in map, and you have no idea what you're up against. Anyone that does that will tell you, holy shit, dude, I'm scared. And it can be
Yeah.
broad daylight, but that's the power of like the AI and the mechanics of this game, is that everything counts. You have to survive, and only because you have your friends close doesn't necessarily mean that you're safe. So yeah, the moment like my friend dies and I'm fighting against cannibals by myself, that dread will come back right at you, and that's why I think this game is absolutely amazing.
Right.
Because no
Yeah.
game has made me feel that ever.
Yes, dude. Yes, that heavy.
That's such a like primal human
Yeah.
feeling. Like,
Mhm.
oh shit, I'm not with the tribe. I'm in real danger.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
that just hit like deep, hit real deep. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and
I'm feeling things.
and I mean, think about it too. Like and partially it's due to the enemy AI. And I know we keep coming back to it, but it's because
It's
AI
that
really
important.
does
It's
sell it.
that
Yeah.
important.
I mean, how many times do you play like Call of Duty or Resident Evil, right? And yeah, like you're a little scared, but you have a big ass shotgun, you have armor, you discover the enemy like routes or like or what do you call it, like Luis, like when it
Their patterns.
yes,
Yes.
thank you, like
They're like attack
Attack
patterns,
patterns,
or strategies.
you know, like you discover their attack patterns and strategies. So like the more you fight an enemy, the more you'll realize like, oh, they do this all the time. The forest wipes that clean.
It takes a long ass time to figure out the forest AI. Like it's gonna take a lot, and we don't know.
We don't know everything,
No.
as you can tell.
No.
Yeah.
Still,
So like spoiler here, for anyone who doesn't want to know, but I found out that the red paint that you find around the different campsites, so if you use that and have low sanity, the tribes start worshiping you.
What?
what?
Yes. So like I found that out. I was looking at a YouTube video, and there's a way that basically the tribes start, they like bow down to you, basically, and it's like I'm like, are you shitting me?
Shit, dude. We gotta go back into the forest in insane mode, bro.
Let's go back
Let's
in.
go back in.
Timmy!
From here on out, it's gonna be spoiler stuff. We'll
Spoilers!
Spoilers.
Spoilers!
Spoilers.
Spoilers!
we're gonna put in a time code to where you can jump from here on out to straight to the rating. So whoever doesn't want to hear more spoilery thingies, just click on that button and that
This
time
is your
code.
warning.
This is your final warning. So, anyways, guys, what happens when you completely annihilate all your enemies and you think you're safe?
Huh.
Oh
They
my
send in the
God,
Hulk,
okay.
bro.
Dude, okay, let's do one monster each.
Okay.
How about that?
Let
Let me start. Let me go ahead and start then with the Hulk then.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So the Hulk, this thing that we call, I like to call him Man Bear Pig. If you guys know a Man Bear Pig, he's half man, half bear, half pig. And that thing is gnarly, bro. You start hearing a boom, 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 and a charging, right? And then you hear the roar, and What?
I used to call him El Torito.
El Torito.
El
That's
Toro.
the other name we had for him.
Yeah.
El Toro. El Toro. El Toro. Because he's like a bull.
The bull.
You know, man. He's like a bull. The bull man. The pig bull man. So this thing is a mutant. It's. I guess since we're in the spoiler talk now, we find out that these things are like mutated underground by like this ancient device, and this is one of like the exceptional mutants, right? The pig man, the Toro, the man bear pig, and this thing doesn't really have any arms. It just has a giant head and a giant torso and massive legs, and it puts its head down and it just charges you like a fucking bull. And yeah, that thing will go through your walls. It'll destroy your buildings. It'll bring down your structures. And so what the enemy will often do is they'll send him first to break down walls and to break shit, so that by the time they start sending the other mutants, your defenses are pretty destroyed.
Dude,
I remember the first time we saw him, I'm like, what the fuck is that?
And
then
the
boom!
sound in the
and
forest.
they play different music for it. So like then they train you with Pavlovian conditioning to every time you hear that music, you're like, ah, freaking
Weapons out.
you because you think he's gonna show up. Oh my
legit.
God,
It's terrifying. And then we have one of the other mutants. So usually after the man bear pig will be followed by one of two other mutants.
The second mutant that shows up, and it's usually to be honest, before the Torito comes out, this is the one that usually shows up first. I like to call it the vagina.
The
vagina monster, which in the story we come to find out that this monster, that it actually did grow multiple genitals.
No, that's literally
what it is. It's literally what it is.
It's just an amalgamation of all these limbs.
Yep.
Which happen to be like, they look feminine, the limbs, but it's not a pretty thing.
Nope.
To say the least.
And this is why Luis has all the big words now. No, and I agree.
So unique to describe.
It really is. So when we say it's a vagine, it really is a vagine.
It really is. That's really what it is. And remember that these cannibals are butt-ass naked, so it kind of fits in with them.
So for this mutant, I should say, it's not necessarily a song or something that plays. It's this sound effect. It's like a really, really low growl. It's like like really low. And I remember the first time we heard it. I think it was it you, Master Rein? It was at the beach.
Yeah. We came up the hill on the beach because we were going to our first base to get something, and we started hearing something in the woods, and we're like, what the fuck is that? It's getting closer, it's getting louder. And then we saw the amalgamation of limbs and genitals, and we were like, holy shit, turn around. Oh my God, turn around.
Yep.
So shocking.
we managed to kill the beast. And I swear my heart was like really racing,
pounding, bro.
And then after that we discovered the Torito, the running bull enemy, and then when we went to the caves, we discovered the third mutant. Luis,
the last one is the fucking mutant baby jumpers. I don't know what the fucking. Oh my God, I can't even say those words. It was so creepy. I remember we first saw him in a cave, and you just hear the noises first. Again,
squeak,
sound design.
It's like,
just squeak. You hear baby sounds, and you're like, no. And when you actually see what it's coming out of, it's just like this, again, amalgamation of baby body. Oh my God, it's so. Oh, I can't even.
Horrible.
It's so bad, and they kind of just bounce out of the ground towards you, and you have to like avoid them or get rid of them, and it's like highly disturbing.
So
dude.
they don't,
especially when you've been paranoid all this time.
So they don't do a lot of damage, thankfully, but they're always in like big numbers. And so like if you get hit one after another, like you'll start feeling it, But they're really easy to kill, but it's that, again, Dead Space. Dead Space did this too in Dead Space 2, I believe, where there's like these like baby monsters. Same idea. Not as gruesome, but just as disgusting.
It's the game is. I guess this is in the spoiler section. You really get a new picture of how creepy this game can get.
And then usually right after that, the last big enemy that you encounter or that we've encountered, because I got news for you guys, but that we've encountered is this like spider lady thing. It has like spider legs and has like the body of like or like half a body of a lady. Um, yeah. So it if anything, it's kind of like a foreshadowing to like the final boss, really, because this is one of the strongest enemies. Like it takes a bit to really put her down. It's like
Yeah, they're boss battles. Yeah, yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is. That's what it is. Is that when you start fighting these cannibals enough times, they will send the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
Yep. And so yeah, like the game. So guess what, guys? There was one enemy we actually never got the chance to fight.
we never saw. I know there is one
What?
enemy we never actually saw.
Yep, there's
Yeah.
actually one enemy we never got to see because the way to activate it is by you have to kill so many mutants that it'll eventually activate. So this
Oh.
this monster is basically a huge, using one of your words, Luis, amalgamation of sausages. It's basically a sausage monster.
What?
Yes, it's a sausage
Yeah,
monster
yeah.
that can destroy your base immediately, and it's really hard to kill. It can fly.
What?
It can it can disperse
Yeah.
because it's so many different parts. It can disperse, and yeah, basically it destroys all your buildings with one hit.
We gotta make that thing fight us. We gotta go back in.
Should we move into the ending then? Talk about that part of the story since we're in the spoiler
Yeah,
section?
let's go ahead and talk about the ending.
that's some
Yeah,
good
so
shit right
so let's
there.
talk about the last 5 hours of like from when we decided this is it. Let's go back into the caves and let's go find Timmy. So
Timmy.
so we armored up. We armored up literally, got all the armor, got like everything, got all the weapons, got all the food that we needed, all the medicine, all the water, and we went in it. And I forgot where we went first. Oh, we went down into since we're in a spoiler section, we went down to the C note. That's where we found the cave, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jonathan, I think we were exploring and we were just like trying to see what we could find because we were kind of like trying to look for the end game. And I think Jonathan ended up like finding an entirely new hole like in the C note that we could go underground with, or sorry, we can go underwater with the respirators. And that led us into secret science base, and they were researching some of the gnarliest things that they're trying to research like how to create infinite life, like how to stop death and how to regrow limbs and things like that.
As you explore more and more of the island, you start noticing like there's these different like not artifacts but like these doors and these like items that are clearly not human or looks just like a really weird form.
It looks satanic is the only way I can.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Like
It looks
ancient
straight off
satanic.
of, yes, like a Cradle of Filth album cover or something. And so when you get to these caves, you'll start seeing these huge doors again that look like you're going to enter the mouth of hell. And as you keep going forward, you enter this lab that Master Rein was mentioning. And imagine basically like you're going into Black Mesa from Half-Life.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, but a lot more
but-
messed up.
but yeah, and it's like not as wholesome.
Not as wholesome. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Like there's this one room and it's just like skulls. There was like hundreds and hundreds of skulls just littered before you even walk into the research facility. And then once you're in the research facility, there was like hallways of like body parts, just like various limbs and blood everywhere, covered everywhere, and just piles and piles and piles of bodies everywhere. And then you start finding, like, as you're getting down there, you're finding all the cassette tapes or the videotapes of what happened before all this shit went down this
Dude,
forest.
we haven't even mentioned that. It's like when you go to the caves, you find all these cassette tapes, and you need to find actually the camera to play the cassette tapes, and they will give you more and more of the story. It's like
When you get
that's
that
like-
camera, ooh, Oh my god, that was creepy.
Yeah.
Because like we had found magazines of a certain artifact, of a certain really strange satanic looking artifact, and we have found drawings of them, right? And we have found this one like popular mechanic magazine that was like, is this the secret to eternal life, right? And then you see this artifact in this cassette tapes, in this videotapes, being used with the kid, and the kid like freaks out. And then you find another videotape where you watch it, and the kid is like convulsing or something. And then you see another videotape where a kid, like there's like a monster like in the same room where the kid was, and it's one of the giant monsters, one of the giant mutants that you're trying to fight, and it is tearing everybody apart.
It's good stuff. It again, it's the Tiger King effect of horror or
But of horror, yeah.
Yeah, because it's the what the fuck, and it continues over and over again, and it always gets worse.
It's continued to get worse. That was not the most pleasant part. It literally got worse after that.
Once we uncover the mysteries of the obelisk, you find out that
that's what it's called.
patient zero is still alive,
and you find out the patient zero was the daughter of the head scientist there,
and you find her in this basically church-like room, to say the least. And there's like a really weird moment where it's like your character just like tries to communicate with this with this girl.
But she's drawing something on the ground too. She's drawing this thing about this giant red man, and it said like evil or something on it. And you see that drawing everywhere too before you even find this little girl.
Mm-hmm. And then, bam! Like all of a sudden, she turns into
mutates
like a huge spider mutant. Yeah, dude! Like final boss right there. You gotta kill her. You gotta kill her.
Her name was Megan. And like you think you're gonna go save her, and you see her and you're like, oh my god, she's alive, Megan. And she looks at you and she's full of blood, and like, that ain't Megan anymore.
Nope. And so
that ain't Megan anymore.
You manage to kill her, and you use her body to revive your son Timmy, which is in a state of like either he's dead or he's catatonic. We're not exactly sure. But the only way to revive him is by using the obelisk. And so the game makes it pretty clear to you that you need a second body, a second child's body, in order to perform this ritual to revive Timmy. But the moment we get there,
we have to find one more piece to make it work.
And so because she's dead, you can't use the obelisk. It needs a live.
That's right. That's right. And
so this leads to the final end game decision. There's another room that you go into that takes you up to this like lookout
with another ancient artifact.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. Like the moment you start the game, the one thing you notice is a huge mountain, the snowy mountain that is basically inaccessible to you. And trust us, we tried hard to get there because we had a feeling like something's up there.
Yeah, that's a tall ass mountain. Yeah,
even though we were unsuccessful in finding anything outside of the mountain or anything, it's the payoff is that you go into that elevator, you go up the mountain, you go into the lookout, and you're basically looking at the whole island through that from that mountain. And so here comes the final decision of the game. There's two endings basically, and
before we even get there, we find something, one paper, a document that says this device is able to bring down planes, and you find that right around the time that you're talking, you find Megan. So you're like, what do you mean bring down planes? And then
that's the thing that brought down your plane.
Yep, from the beginning of the game.
That's what you learn.
From the beginning of the game, that's what you learn is that they brought the plane down, and whoever was there beforehand probably brought you down to get your son to put into that device to save their son potentially.
Yeah. Or to revive Megan. So you basically have a choice now. Either do the same thing to save your son, or not do it and don't start the process again. So here's the thing, guys.
So it's basically like let your son die or not,
Yeah, basically.
So but kill another kid, in his place, basically.
What a decision,
So your heart will not want, like, here's the thing, like if you're playing like a goody two shoes, like you do not want to kill another person, right? Like it just feels wrong.
An entire
But
plane. Really?
An entire plane.
but guess what, guys? The canon ending is the one where you do bring down the plane. The other ending,
You bring it down.
yeah, the other ending is basically it. You don't bring down the plane. You decide to let Timmy go, and all that does is that it unlocks the rest of the island for you, and you can play
You stay on
basically
the
a
island.
huge horde mode.
You're stuck on the island at that point
Yep,
in the
you're
story.
stuck on the island. Yep.
Yeah.
You get a new device that you find in this yacht that's around the island. You get this device called it's like a smaller obelisk.
Yeah.
The artifact, I believe it's called.
The artifact,
And
yeah.
basically that activates horde mode.
So you can
Yeah.
have all the mutants attack you or none of them. So you can just
Or none of them.
You can sandbox, you can build a big base so no mutants bother you, and then you can activate it to like test your ultimate base.
And then the second ending is you do bring down the plane. It is assumed that basically you grab another kid and you revive Timmy. And then it cuts to you like a year later, and you're in this like
Talk show.
in this talk show where you apparently released a new book that's going to become a film about your exploits at the island, your experience at the island. And Timmy's with you. He has a really clear scar on his face.
And
due
a
to-
little like a
Twitch.
shaking little thing. Little twitch. Yeah.
Twitch.
Yeah. And so at the end of the game, at the end of this cutscene, basically Timmy starts twitching uncontrollably, very similar to the way you see Megan twitch. And so you think like, oh my God, he's going to turn into a monster. And it cuts to black. And you think that's the end, but it's not. It comes back to a cutscene and Timmy is just breathing and not convulsing anymore. But here's the great part. It then cuts to many years later, and now you're not controlling, but the camera changes to Timmy's perspective. He's a college student, and he's all grown
He's got a
up.
drinking problem, looks like.
Yeah,
For good reason. For good reason.
There's a lot of whiskey
A lot of
bottles.
a lot of PTSD in his life.
Dude, what I don't
Yeah.
understand is how all our characters were black and Timmy was white.
Let's not go there.
God.
But the game at the end basically hints that Timmy wants to find the second site. So apparently this island wasn't the only island with an obelisk. There's another island that also has what we assume is another obelisk. And bam, got yourself a sequel.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he starts twitching, and then he looks down on his arms, and like there's, he's like an alcoholic. He's like stressed out, and then his arms start like doing these weird changes, and he's trying to hold it back, and then just like goes to the window of the apartment trying to hold his arms from like doing.
Yeah.
We don't know, but it looks a lot like
don't know.
when the transformation happens into a mutant.
Exactly.
So he's like fighting his becoming a mutant, but also wants to go
Yeah.
back to the island. So that could be some crazy stuff for the sequel.
Yeah.
It might be that he's looking for a cure.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. My opinion
yeah.
is that I think he's looking for to get the contamination out of him, but it looks like he has it under control. So the interesting thing would be in the next game if you've got some mutant power.
Oh,
that'd be kind of crazy. But
It's like, will sanity actually play a bigger role now? Like
yeah.
the
It
more
definitely
insane
should.
you get, the more insane you get, the more your character like loses it. Like you become more, like more cannibalistic.
so we'll see,
Oh.
because so the second game kind of looks like it's going to be more of a militaristic survival kind of game. So we'll see what Forest 2 comes out to, and we'll review that 100%. We're going to review
Oh,
that
yeah.
when that comes out for sure.
Oh yeah.
But going back to the forest a little bit, going back to this Timmy guy, he's alive in the real world. He's got the mutation with him in the real world, and he's dealing with it.
With that in mind, let's just real quick say, what are some of the things that you wish the game did better? Like some of the bad, I guess. Like real quick, what comes to the top of your head?
Yeah, so one is the mechanics of insanity. So there's the game does a really good job of like making you afraid, and then you kind of grow and like go after the story and push the story forward, and then you become more and more fucked up, like in the story, right? Until the very ending, you're essentially like you can't morally differentiate yourself from the cannibals and all the things that made you afraid. Like you are just as messed up as they are at the end of the story. Like you've become a cannibal almost in a sense. It's sometimes literally. So I like they did that story wise very well, but the actual mechanics, which the insanity mechanic is one of them, don't like the mechanics should accentuate that. I feel like. And then it would
Yeah,
make it
good
even
point.
better. You would feel even more messed up about taking that other kid to save Timmy, or doing all these
Yeah.
crazy things. And because you wear your enemy's armor, you become what you fear at the end, which is cool. But it would be better if there was mechanics behind it too.
I'm kind of with you there. I was kind of little disappointed with how shallow the insanity mechanic is. I really thought it was gonna like the moment I found out that there was a sanity meter, it was like, ooh, what is this gonna mean? It's like, is it gonna be good? The fact that you can like regain sanity by sleeping or sitting down, like, yeah, that's cool, but it's like there's not such a drastic change in terms of gameplay for your sanity that there's no reason really to build
Yeah.
chairs or to build
Yeah.
like decor things for decor's sake. Like, yes, there's a mechanical aspect to building decor because those will raise your sanity back to normal, and that kind of makes sense, right? Like
Yeah,
if but it's like, but what for? It's
yeah.
not like your character loses health faster or he can't eat certain foods. Like, there's nothing really to incentivize
No difficult
you.
decisions for like oh man, should I eat? I'm about to starve, but I don't want to eat this like human flesh because then I'll go crazy and lose control of my character, something like that. There's no like difficulty.
Yeah.
It's like no, yeah, eat the human feet.
Yeah, eat the human flesh.
Yeah,
Yeah, eat the
whatever.
human
You know.
legs.
And,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
just sit down and we'll go to sleep and your sanity will go back up. Like, it's not, it doesn't really punish you. And I feel like that's a lot of like, it might have been just because they just wanted to release the game, but I felt like it was a lost, it had so much potential. Another thing I want to mention in regards to like just something that I didn't necessarily like about the forest is that as good as the AI is, the AI can sometimes get mixed up. So many times whenever we were fighting, like the AI would run circles around a tree, and I'm like literally right in front of him, but he just keeps running circles and circles and circles.
Yeah.
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 And this happened more than once, so I know it wasn't just like a one-time thing where this one uh, enemy was just doing that. No, it kept happening over and over again, and I mean, granted, the AI is already doing such an insane amount of work that that it's forgiven. Like, these little things are forgiven, but it's the more you play the game, the more you start noticing like certain things with the AI that are clearly
Little
not
quirks.
meant. Yeah, like it wasn't meant to. Like, those things didn't. Yeah, exactly. Like little quirks where it's like they'll run and stop, and then run and stop,
Yeah.
and it's like at the
Yeah.
same. It's like, what are you doing?
Or even them falling into the water, because like I kind of think they should be able
Yeah.
to swim or at least get themselves back to the shore. And like what we started doing for defense was fight by the water, let them drown
Yeah, and they would die instantly, no matter who they
instantly.
were. It was
Even the
like you
Yeah,
couldn't
that
do.
was
mutants.
Yeah.
lame.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, at first it proved to be very useful because that like we would like in terms of tactics, like it was really cool to like bring them over the water and then have them drown. But like I think I wish there was like at least an animation where they get in the water and they try to like swim but they sink or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
Or
that
like you
some
can
of
like
them
hit them
could
in the water
actually
or
swim
something.
and the heavier ones can't. That'd be cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I know we're
exactly.
asking already for a lot, but it's like it's like an animation can really change what we think. And you're right, like seeing just them jump on the water and then they just die. It's and you can't retrieve anything from the water either. You
And you
can't carry them out of the
exactly.
Yeah.
water, so
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
they just stay there.
It really feels
And
incomplete.
yeah, then there are definitely a lot of aspects of the game that feel a little incomplete. Yeah, and then lastly, I'll say that something that really a lot of these like issues that we're having with the game are very superficial if you think about it. Like, it really won't like ruin the game experience for you. It's like a GTA game or a Red Dead Redemption game. Like, the more you play it, the more you'll start seeing bugs because the game is doing so much.
Right.
So
Kind of like Fallout as
with
well.
the forest
Yeah.
is the same thing. The more you play it, the more you start noticing things, and the more it'll look broken. But I think that's just with any piece of media. Like the more you see it, the more you start seeing the issues. And so yeah,
It's not a
like
buggy game. It's not a broken
it
buggy
really
game by any
it's
means.
really
It's
well
not that.
optimized. Yeah,
Right.
it's
It's
really well optimized.
for the small team that they have. I think it was like a 5-person development team with some outside contracting. It's a well optimized game.
Way better than some of your AAA games.
Bro, way better than
Oh, yeah.
Anthem. Come on now.
With like not even half the budget, you know.
Not even half the budget. I'm still sore about Anthem, dude. Anyways.
So anyway, let's go and rate this bad boy, guys.
Yeah, let's each give our
Alright.
review. I think we should each give our review, and then we'll give a little reasoning why behind it.
Okay, so in this case, and again to our listeners, in the future we're gonna figure out the best way to review, like to give you guys a rating system. But I think for now we're just gonna each of us give our own reviews. What's your rating, Master Rein, for the Forest?
I believe this game gets a solid 8.5 out of 10. 8.5 out of 10. Now this is now an 8.5 out of 10 in my book is a definitely play kind of game. It's a definitely play. I don't give it a 9. I don't give it the perfect 10 because there are some things that it doesn't have for the perfect 10, like the insanity issues that we were talking about earlier, or for example some of the bugs, or it could add more ideas into the base building. It could have been more expanded there. But overall, I absolutely loved this game. In my book, it's a very important survival story-based game because it opened up the genre a little bit more to the fact that people want more of these story-based survival games, which is why Grounded is now out, in my opinion. It's almost exactly like The Forest, except for kids, right? So you can
Yeah.
market
More
it to a
accessible, yeah.
wider audience, right? Which I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, like do that. I love these type of games. So again, my final rating for The Forest is 8.5 out of 10. It's one of those games that you're gonna want to play with friends, and definitely at least get one or two other friends to play with you, and you're gonna have a wonderful time with this game.
All right, Luis.
Yeah, I mean, Ray, I'm with you with all the, like, if you play this game going in blind and like not knowing much at all, or at the very least, if you know stuff, don't tell other people what hasn't been organically discovered, and you have like a good at least three or more friends. I think if you approach it the right way, it's a 9 out of 10 for me, because the experience is that good if you approach it the right way, and it's really good. The reason it's not a 10 is because all the little things we talked
Okay,
about.
so what's your final rating?
Play it co-op, 9 out of 10.
Okay, thanks. Before I give my final rating, I think this game is play single player, play co-op. You're gonna have a very unique experience. Of course, any game that you play with your friends is gonna be 10 times more fun, but this game doesn't need to be played with friends in order to be fun. With that in mind, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a solid game the story is good enough to just keep going. It's intriguing enough for me to really like go ahead and figure things out, right? But I think what really gives it that 9 out of 10 is obviously the co-op aspects of it. The fact that you can bring in your friends, and that most of us played it blind. Most of us came in and played it blind, and it was just a phenomenal experience. We discovered things together. Some of those deficiencies that we pointed out, the reason why it doesn't get a 10 out of 10, because I think a 10 out of 10 game means that every mechanic in the game works for the game. And because
a 10 out of 10 would be if you add something to the game, it would make it worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Like everything,
Yeah, that's a great point.
like I think of games like The Witcher or Half-Life, where there's nothing like these games. Everything in the game works for the game. There's nothing really that's promising or broken. It's like, no, if you can shoot the gun, you can shoot this gun. If you can break this, you can do that. Like, it follows the rules that it sets onto you, and then it allows you to do whatever you want with it. And
Well, very good way to say that. I love
Yeah,
I love how you said that. Yep.
thank you. And so, like with the forest, it's like you have all these mechanics, you have all this sandbox experience, but sadly, some of the mechanics don't really do anything for your experience. So that's why I give it a 9 out of 10. It's a phenomenal game. I highly recommend you play with 2+ players. So if you get one or two or three more, you're in for a amazing experience.
Absolutely. I applaud this game. I clap and I stand and applaud this game and the developers because it was a not a massive development team, B not a massive marketed game, right? And C it wasn't like a AAA kind of super graphics kind of game that people are going to be all like, "Wow, you got to pick this one up." This is definitely a game that is going around by the word of mouth of people saying this is an awesome game. It has still like almost 5,000 people consistently playing it on Steam. The game is by word of mouth. It has been spread around. And when games by word of mouth or any entertainment by word of mouth, when it's spread around like that by people just saying you should play it because it's awesome, it definitely is awesome. Definitely.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Luis for joining us on this review. It's been fantastic to have you here. Your input was extremely valuable, and I am
Thank
looking
you.
forward to playing way more co-op games with you, and obviously Age of Empires once you're done with your
Oh
scenario.
yeah, that's gonna be a fun one, you
All
guys.
right. Thanks for having me, guys. This was
Thank you,
awesome.
Luis.
Yeah. So, and thank you everyone, for listening to us and listening to us about the forest. Please remember to follow us on social media, and if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a quick review. It will help the podcast grow immensely. Again, thank you all for listening. Until next time, where Master Rein and I will probably be discussing another top 10.
And we're currently working on our Ghost of Tsushima review as well, so I cannot wait to bring that out to you guys.
Oh yeah, no, we've been playing a lot of Ghost of Tsushima, and yeah, we definitely have to talk about that in the next review.
Go and play the forest.
Go and play the forest, people.
Just
go and play the forest and turn the sound up 100% on your headphones.
Ooh, yes.
And remember, everyone, heal your teammates before they die. See ya.